Hi, this lecture will focus on the most common sounding scale, the major scale. The basis of the common practice era, which were from the 17th century till today, are the major and minor modalities. And because the pitches in these modalities are presented in an ascending or descending order, they're called scales. The scales consist of specific set of intervals and specific pitches, and each pitch inside the scale serves a certain function. That's the major scale. It's the most familiar when it comes to sound and sight. The intervals in an ascending order are major second, minor second, major second, major second, major second, and a minor second. And that's how it sounds. One of the models used to construct a major scale was pairing two sets of 4 notes each, together what we know as tetrachord. Each of these tetrachords is composed of 2 whole tones and a semitone, like this. By selecting your tetrachord to start on C, and it's linked to D with a whole tone, and the D linked with a whole tone to E, and then the E connected to the F with a half tone. You get your tetrachord, and you do the same process again, linking the G to the A with a whole tone, the A to the B with another whole tone, and the B to the C with a semitone, and the F and G are a whole tone apart, and that's one of the ways the major scale was constructed. Unlike the old modes, the major scale can begin on any pitch, and the name of that scale is determined by the pitch of the scale that starts on. And because all the major scale possesses the same sequence of intervals, they all sound the same except for the differences in highness or lowness. So for example, you get the C major scale that looks like this. Use the same sequence of intervals starting on the D, and that's what you'll get. You can start on any pitch providing the correct accidentals are added to the correct places, so the sequence of intervals doesn't change. When creating a scale, first of all, as I just mentioned, you need to add the correct accidentals to their correct places, so the pattern remains the same, but also so the performer doesn't get confused. If, for example, the G major was used, but the sharp wasn't added to the F, the performer might assume the C major scale was used instead. So pay attention to that. One more rule is you can mix both sharps and flats when creating the major scale. Only flats alone or sharps alone may be used to notate the notes. When creating the C major scale, what was explained so far would serve you very well. But when the composer needs, for example, to create the A major scale, writing an entire musical or a song using it, having to notate the sharps next to every F, C, and G makes it a hard task. So at some point, a shortcut was introduced, called the key signature. Key signatures inform the performer that unless specifically instructed otherwise, all encountered pitches of a certain letter name, such as for instance, all the Fs are to be sharp, all the Bs are to be flat. This convention saves the composer the job of placing a sharp before all the Fs or flats before all the Bs, or any other note. The appropriate key signature can be determined by checking what pitches are used to create the scale. Thus, the A major scale has 3 altered pitches, the F sharp, C sharp, and the G sharp. To inform the performer of this alteration, key signatures are used, and the key signature for the A major scale looks like this, and the key signatures are always written immediately after the clef. Looking at the A major key signature, you'll see that it looks specifically like this. You may ask, why not write it like this instead? It still shows that the notes F, C, and G should be altered, right? The answer is yes, it does show you that the notes should be altered, but writing it like this would be incorrect, because there are conventions for the construction of key signatures. These conventions determine how the flats or sharps are to be placed from left to right on the staff. The pattern used is the order in which the flats or sharps are introduced into the major scale, beginning with 1 flat or sharp unto 2, 3, 4, up to 7. Keep in mind, the C major scale has no flats or sharps, so it's the starting point. Musicians know what major scale is used by either counting the number of sharps and flats in the key signature, or by checking what's the last note that got altered. That's always placed on the far right of the key signature. Also keep in mind, using different clefs, the placement of the accidentals would change. The order doesn't, but the F using the triple clef is here, and the F using the bass clef is here. You still add the sharp to the F, but keep in mind to where is that F and every other note is placed when using different clefs. Let's get to showcasing all the major scales and their key signature. The C major scale has no sharps or flats in it. The G major scale has one sharp in it and it's placed on the F. The D major scale has two sharps in it and they're placed on the F and C. The A major scale has three sharps in it and they're placed on the F, C, and G. The E major scale has four sharps in it and they're placed on the F, C, G, and D. The B major scale have five sharps in it and they're placed on the F, C, G, D, and A. The F sharp scale has six sharps in it and they're placed on the F, C, G, D, A, and E. The C sharp major scale has seven sharps in it and they're placed on the F, C, D, G, A, E, and B. Those are all the major scales that use sharps. It's important that you memorize them very well. The F major scale has one flat in it and is placed on the B. The B flat major scale has two flats in it and they're placed on the B and E. The E flat major scale has three flats in it and they're placed on the B, E, and A. The A flat major scale has four flats in it and they're placed on the B, E, A, and D. The D flat major scale has five flats in it and they're placed on the B, E, A, D, and G. The G flat major scale has six flats in it and they're placed on the B, E, A, D, G, and C. The G flat major scale has seven flats in it and they're placed on the B, E, A, D, G, C, and F. These are all the major scales that has flat in them. Again, it's really important to memorize these ones as well. A good way to remember the order of sharps and flats is memorizing that sharps are added in this order. First off F, then C, then G, then D, then A, then E, then B. And the flats are added in the order in exactly the opposite order of the sharps, starting B, then E, then A, then D, then G, then C, then F. Exactly the opposite order. Also, you may notice that we got 15 different scales while only having 12 notes. How is that possible? If you remember the lectures from the first part of the course, you'll remember the term enharmonic. That means two differently notated notes sound the same. Enharmonics also exists in scales. The D flat major scale and the C sharp major scale are notated differently, one even having 7 sharps and the other 5 flats. But if you look closely at the notes presented, you'll find out that enharmonically they're the same. D flat and C sharp are the same pitch. Second notes are D sharp and E flat. They also sound the same. Then you get the E sharp and F, which also sound the same, and this logic applies to all the notes in order on both scales. So the D flat major scale and C sharp major scale sound the same. Also the G flat major scale and the F sharp major scale. And lastly, the B major scale and the C flat major scale. When and why would we have two scales that sound the same, and when do we use them? I'll explain in a later lecture. But after figuring that out, we're left with 12 scales for 12 pitches. That's the end of this lecture. Exercises on the major scale are available. Enjoy solving them and see you in the next lecture.